You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market, from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody, that rockin' tune means it's time for a rockin' show. It's time to rock around the block with the old option block. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-sexy, ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. I mean, have you seen a picture of the rock lobster? Man, it's drop dead sexy. That's what people write into us saying, why is the rock lobster so handsome? Questions that could never be answered by mortal man. Of course, you too can check out all this goodness however you like. If you like it on demand, we're on all the major platforms. You're probably listening to that right now on an iTunes or on your device or platform of choice. By the way, if you're listening on one of those platforms and you like what you hear, feel free to throw a few stars our way, maybe review if you're so inclined. If you don't like it, blame the rock lobster, not us. And of course, that always helps with the search and finding stuff. You know, we have a decade's worth of content on all these platforms, so it should be easy to find, but you'd be surprised how poor the search is on most of these platforms. Even Google can't really seem to master podcast searching, a hard challenge for all the folks out there. And of course, if you're super hardcore, you like to have it in your ear holes right away, we offer a live version. We've been seeing Mixlr, but some people are reporting some issues with the Mixlr of late, so we're going to try to investigate some alternatives to Mixlr as well. I think Facebook has a live audio streaming and a few other things. Problem is, most of the live platforms mostly fixate on video. We want to obviously get the audio out to you guys so you guys can hear it wherever you are and not have to worry about watching us. So we're trying to figure that out for you. But in the meantime, the Mixlr is still up and running. MIXLR should be hopefully problem-free today. We shall see, and grab it wherever you follow us on all the different platforms on the website. Set it and forget it. You can follow us there if you are so inclined. I know a bunch of you do. You get notified then instantly whenever we go live. And of course, however you listen, live after the fact, hit us up. Questions, comments, pearls of wisdom. Maybe you have a trade you like or don't like or something else on your mind. Let us know. We like to hear from you guys on occasion. All right. And joining me on the old program today, he's the man who you guys love to write in and ask about why he's so handsome. He is the rock lobster himself, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the show. Was that your mom who wrote in asking why you're so handsome?
It might have been. I don't recall ever being feted so early on the show. Usually there's a reason to take umbrage quite quickly, but now all you're doing is just throwing handsome at me. So I don't even know what show I'm on, to be honest. Is this really the option block? Is this really the Option Insider Radio conglomerate?
I thought I'd throw you a curveball here at the beginning so you wouldn't know which way was up and you'd be all topsy-turvy.
Just don't ask me about a vertical spread. That's all I know.
No, we know that's your weakness. That's your kryptonite. I saw Justice League recently. That is your kryptonite to Superman, sir. The SPX verticals. Just can't figure those out. And of course, listeners, we don't know why he's so handsome. It's a mystery that shall remain an enigma for all time. And also joining us, also a very fine-looking gentleman, a handsome man, as they used to say out west. Let's see if the hurricane has blown past St. Charles, and he is now ready and willing and able to join us, of course, to talk about Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Wealth Advisors. Uncle Mike, welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, great to be here, and thanks for the kind words. Like my mom always told me I had a great face for radio.
She's a wise lady, as I like to say. It sounds like things are working over there. We'll have to offer up a sacrifice to the Skype gods throughout the show to make sure that that you can stay on the show with us. Meanwhile, let's keep on rolling. Let's kick it off with the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block. This is, of course, the portion of the show we break down what actually was trading today. A bit of a weird one, of course, if you guys are listening to our shows on Friday, if you listen to the podcast afterwards, excuse me, you guys know that a lot of crazy stuff was kind of popping off on Friday after seeing an interesting week where we kind of saw a little bit of rally homo, then a little bit of fear. Then on Friday, oh my goodness, impeachment, investigations, all this craziness. So big, kind of weird, kind of wide-ranging sell-off there on Friday. Seemed to exacerbate a bit during our shows, then mitigate a bit, and then all sorts of weird stuff as all kinds of different news is being digested. Then we come in today, and it seemed like we were in rally ho mode. I know most of the major indices opened up pretty strongly, and which would probably surprised a lot of people given the kind of the news that was coming out on Friday. Of course, we had the tax deal over the weekend as well, kind of adding to that little bit of bullish news. So it's kind of a bit of a dance. Does the tax deal erase the impeachment threat or vice versa? How do all these equate? It's not really any easy calculus for that kind of math, and the market kind of digesting that today, ending up the day, I guess, which is probably as expected, kind of unched. People are kind of trying to figure all this stuff out. Most of the major indices, S&P almost literally unched up like a quarter of a handle on the day. The Dow, after kicking it off aggressively, up over 200 points at one point, only up about 67 to end the day, so about 0.3 of a percentage point. And the NASDAQ taking a bit of a breather, off about 1%. So NASDAQ is where the lack of love persisted out there. You know where there was no lack of love? Kind of VIX. VIX staying firm and strong despite all this kind of weirdness and head scratching going on in the market. You know, a little bit of uncertainty, probably not the worst thing for VIX these days, hovering right around the 11.5 handle, 1140 or so. So still quite juicy, certainly compared to our vol views crystal ball predictions. We need a nice handle or plus to the downside for my prediction to start looking good. I think we'll start with the handsome one, Mr. Rock Lobster, because he didn't get a chance to play on vol views on Friday, and it was a crazy day out there in VIX land on Friday. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, what's been catching your eye out there? Of course, Friday and indeed today, and what's been lighting up the pitch chat of late, sir?
I will tell you right now what's been lighting things up is 1 penny. That looks like where VIX is going to close. Let's see it. If we get a 415 settle or whatever, 1 penny, down 1 penny on the day. So I find that interesting. I find that the whole fake news, or trying to figure out what fake news costs, or what that it was a very interesting, how they reported the news and how it all went down, and everybody thought like, oh my gosh, and then it just turns out, at least from whatever the latest headlines, which I don't know if you can believe headlines anymore, since the stuff that hits the tape can be wrong. It's quite exciting, actually, almost too exciting. So I think they've, as far as vol and VIX goes, we traded 10.5 today VIX, which I thought was pretty reasonable. The market was up like 0.5%. You know, it's kind of a lot of times with volatility that grenade goes off, and then it takes a little while to sort of for things to sort of calm down. And that's, I think, what we're going to get today. I think the biggest problem is just the NASDAQ just selling off. I think a lot of those big multinationals have been rallying on, whatever the tax plan might be for them, and are going to be able to take money back into the U.S. and all that stuff. So they're reading the fine print, but, the whole NASDAQ has been rallying pretty much all year straight up. I have been and still am pretty bullish on it, although I haven't added anything new lately, especially to any of the big stuff, not for a while. So what do? We sit here, and volatility at 12% to me looks pretty fairish, actually. Unless we start to see some things getting settled, it is probably going to beat around at this level. But it took very little time for vol to get crushed on a Monday. Usually we have a vol markup, and it opened down and went down. So, any tax plan that's settled will probably not be good for VIX. There's government shutdown. There's all this, and I'm sure there's a lot of anger in the White House over what went down on Friday and the fake news dissemination. So there might be a barrage of tweets coming. I don't know. But for now, I generally look at the first move in VIX to be where the market wanted to go. And now everybody's worried again about whatever. So the potential is down to really see that low 10 level if we have some, I want to just say end to this tax thing before they recess on the 15th. That was my original date. I was shocked by how fast the market took fall down last week, early in the week on that. So it looks like that time spread type idea, or that play of sort of owning after the vote and then selling options before the vote, still could be a viable strategy. It's worked very well so far, and don't see any reason to see that. But the NASDAQ being weak, that's probably caught most of everybody's eye in the pit chat, looking for cheap upside plays, and NVIDIA, and a lot of just those darlings, because now all the volatility's gone up in those again, and all that upside butterfly stuff is pretty cheap in case we get a bounce. So, on a day when the strongest stock in America was probably CMG, that's not a good day for the market overall.
Hey, what are you saying about CMG, sir? They're a delicious product, even if they have some botulism issues.
It's the saltiest burrito I have ever had. I'm like, oh my gosh, can they put more salt in that burrito?
Have they expanded to Maine yet? Can you get burritos in Maine? Is that even a thing?
There are burrito places. There are taco places. There's a couple Chipotles, I think, maybe one or two. I've driven by. Mostly the one I have ever been to is the one on the way to between Maine and Boston on the one. There's that big corridor there, and that's the. I don't think I've ever been to one in Maine, actually.
It's become so trendy to slam Chipotle. Did you see this thing a few weeks ago? There's a small-scale TV star who apparently tweeted out that he was at death's door because of Chipotle, and he was in the hospital, and he blamed Chipotle, and the stock took a huge hit, and then it turned out it was complete nonsense, and they investigated. Then he amazingly he deleted those tweets and stopped saying that kind of stuff. I would be surprised if a few shareholders may be grumbling his way on Twitter these days. But see, it's just too trendy to slam Chipotle, even if it's not true. You can't blame them for all the rats running around out there. All the cases of botulism certainly are in Chipotle. So back off, Mr. Rocklausch. Just like 60 to 70%. Mr. Uncle Mike, are there Chipotles out there in St. Charles? Is it next to the Skippy Zeros and Lemonade? And what else was catching your eye out there today, sir?
Yeah, ironically, I actually did stop at Chipotle last night and had a burrito. I can't say it was my favorite, but I was out of town. I was away from a couple of my beloved burrito places in the St. Charles area, but I guess it wasn't that bad. So
you survived,
I still
so there
feel
you go.
okay,
You
but,
survived.
That's true. That's the important thing. So, a couple things that were catching my eye today. So in addition to Chipotle, Disney looks like they're in negotiations with 20th Century Fox. That seems to be back on the table, and Disney really did pretty well today, up almost 5% on the day. So the Mouseketeers are really excited, I would imagine, after that move. A couple other things that are catching my eye. The movement today was primarily from a gap up last night. I just remember looking at the futures at roughly a little after 5 o'clock last night when they opened, and the S&P futures were up roughly 15 points. So a lot of the upside that came today didn't really come today. We had, I think it was probably an additional 6 points in the early morning. Maybe not exactly 6 points, 5 to 7 points, something along those lines, an additional upside. But then as the day went on, it appeared that the sellers were in control throughout the day. So we've actually had, I'm just looking at SPY right now. SPY peaked out at 266.80 about 10 minutes into the trading day today. And SPY has actually gone down $2.70 since the peak this morning. The market, it opened a little bit higher, but it really kind of went. We channeled a little bit during the morning, and then once afternoon hit, we just went straight down. And so we're kind of at an interesting point in this, in that what we need to do is really watch this carefully to see where this goes. The opportunity, you could view this as a bull market pullback, or this we could have peaked out after the tax bill passed, and we will see.
Sounds like the hurricane is moving back in to St. Charles. We'll see if we can get Uncle Mike sorted out on the old Skypes. If not, we'll use that magic technology known as the telephone to try to get him back on. You know, I think he slammed Chipotle. They heard that out there in St. Charles, and they cut his connection as a result. But you were right there about Disney, of course. That resumed talk about all things House of Mouse gobbling up Fox. It's got the genre fans out there salivating about Fantastic Four and X-Men getting joined with the Marvel Universe and all the other fun stuff. It's got the analysts loving it, of course, too, because then they'll pretty much own just about every viable major property from a media perspective on the planet. So pretty much 8 out of your 10 big movie experiences in 2019 and beyond will probably be something Disney related. Of course, that will help to make up for the ongoing albatross around their neck that is ESPN, which laid off more people recently as cord cutting and other things continue to eat into that once money printing machine. But they're doing well in the other areas. You know, the parks are doing well. Obviously, the media, you know, Thor and a bunch of other movies is knocking out of the park this year from a box office perspective. So it's a good year to be the House of Mouse, and maybe they want to take some of that cash and spend it on a little thing called Fox. Because who doesn't want to buy Avatar? I mean, come on, that's worth billions right there. The massive, beloved franchise that is Avatar. But yeah, Disney rally-ho mode today, as well as, of course, not your old friend Apple taking a little bloom off the rose. But what did get some interesting bloom, I don't know if you guys have been following the back and forth war that is the battle for all things Bitcoin derivatives. I don't know if you know this, but it's cool to be the first one to do this, because CBOE announced first a few months ago that they were going to launch these Bitcoin futures with the Winklevoss twins and their Gemini ETF. And then it kind of went radio silent for a while. People were wondering what was going on with that. We actually had a rep from the CBOE on to discuss all the nuances of that program. Maybe we'll tweet it out, a link here during the show, so you can, maybe not during the show, but after. So, you know, we don't listen to this show now. While you guys can check out that if you're interested in that sort of thing. I know a lot of you are. Then, of course, CME out of the blue a few weeks ago came out and said, yeah, we're going to play in that game too. We got our own Bitcoin futures coming on that Bitcoin reference rate. And hey, guess what? Now we got a launch date, December 18th. CBOE says, no, you don't. We're going to come out on the 10th of December. So they stole a march on them by about a week and a day. So a lot of back and forth. And if that's not enough for you, well, NASDAQ's going to come play now, too, and they're going to they don't quite have the early announced date, but they're all playing in futures, which is kind of interesting, probably indicating that CFTC, the easier route to go for this than SEC. And anyone who's played in either of those waters could probably agree with that. But surprisingly, they're getting these launch dates out pretty quickly. Saying they're going to start trading. So if all you guys have been asking, when can I sink my teeth into these actual Bitcoin contracts, starts the 10th of December. That's this Sunday, listeners. 5 p.m. Central in the global trading hours over there on the CBOE platform. Monday is going to really be the first full day, obviously, of trading. If you're wondering, it's going to be on the CFE under the ticker symbol XBT. So remember that one. So this is, of course, these are the ones on their Gemini digital trust out there. I'm pretty familiar with the Bitcoin reference rate. I've done some digging into that one. Not as familiar with the Gemini one and what the underlying is comprised of there. I'll have to do a little bit of digging, obviously, before that was announced. So a lot of interesting stuff. Of course, the Winklevoss is chiming in on this one, saying over the last 5 years, the total value of all Bitcoin outstanding, that's a lot. It's a big group to lump together, has grown from less than $1 billion to over $183 billion, with daily notional turnover of about $10 billion. Again, the notional game's a little bit of a funky game to play. But they claim the total value of all cryptocurrency tokens outstanding is now approximately $332 billion. Again, that's not just Bitcoin, that's all of them. But still, a lot of room. You can see how people are starting to chomp at the bit to get at this thing. Some interesting stuff. We've got a question for you guys coming up in a little bit. We'll let you guys debate that amongst yourselves. If you haven't voted, you're listening live, head on over at Options Vote in our poll. With so much new stuff happening on this, we thought we'd bring that poll back for you guys. We just asked you a few weeks ago, and we have the results for that. We'll give those to you in a little bit, what you guys wanted to trade, the CME product or the CBOE product, or the NASDAQ one didn't even exist yet. Now we have the NASDAQ, now we have launch dates. So much is happening in that space. Thought we'd put that out there again and ask you folks. Before we hop on to the odd block, Mr. Rock Lobster, Uncle Mike, you guys chomping at the bit to sling some Bitcoin as well, like everybody else seemingly on the planet?
I actually have clients calling me about it. So I've had, even though it's something that I probably won't do anything with, at least not for a while, definitely have had to do a lot of research in terms of figuring out when it comes out, where it would come out, that type of thing. But for the time being, staying out of it. But can't say that there's no interest in it, because it's definitely there, even in my world.
Yeah, I was talking to one of your counterparts there at RCM Alts on Friday on our CME show, and he said your clients are just lighting them up for all things Bitcoin. They're like, forget WTI, forget gold, forget everything else. Tell us about their coins. So, yeah, it's kind of like us on these shows. You can't escape it. Everyone and their mother just wants to know about this stuff. It's, on the one hand, the product's kind of crazy. On the other hand, there's a groundswell of interest in it, so you kind of can't really avoid it. And it is nice in 2017 to have a product people are genuinely interested in. You know, you look at all the other options product. Granted, there are no options on the horizon yet for Bitcoin, but you look at every other listed product out there, and it's, the volume shrinking, or it's plateauing, or we're seeing volume concentrating in a smaller and smaller number of names every year. To have something new coming out that seems to have some actual groundswell of interest, it's at least a little bit refreshing. Mr. Rock Lobster, I'm sure the hardcores and the pit chat are all over this.
Yeah, we've had clients that have mined Bitcoin for 5 years or something like that. So they've just been watching. Actually, one client got out of some of his
5 years. Well, does he have his own private island right now if he's been mining for 5 years?
Yeah, they're not really complaining about it too much. So they've mostly just as a curiosity, and now.
If I were mining for 5 years, I'd be hitting every bid available to me right now, just nonstop.
Well, you see, you'd say that right now, but you could have said that the whole way. Oh, when it's doubled, it's tripled, it's and now it's that it's up 10,000% or whatever. Now I'm gonna hit every bid.
No, I would of course have held to this moment, of course, and then hit all the bids. That's what I would have done.
The only thing that seems to be getting listed faster than Bitcoin futures is the speed with which they're trying to pass this tax bill. I think that's the CBOE is kind of, like they do it sort of methodically, spending a year trying to figure out how to do this. And everybody else is like, we're going to list the futures next week. I thought that was kind of funny, because the CBOE comes from more the SEC side. So they've been kind of stepping through all this, and then everybody else is like, all right, I'm going to list it. I find that funny. I'm still trying to figure out, for a currency to go up as much as it has, that's certainly a very interesting currency. So, I don't think I've seen anything, and you guys, that has risen quickly, that has not crashed back down to earth at some point. I'm not going to poo-poo it, but who knows where it goes. But at this point, it's now kind of real dollars on the line, and I have a feeling once, at least if there's an offer for the futures, again, this is potential for squeezy, but since you really don't have to deliver anything, it's just a cash index, it won't be as big a squeeze as there has been in the past on things like this. There will be margin. Looking at the margin numbers from the CME, they raised it to, I think it's 35 to 40% for the future. I think at minimum it should be 50%, to be honest, or more, maybe 60%, just because the thing can swing 20% in a day easy. So I wouldn't be surprised if the requirements go up, because you're going to hear there will be gnashing of teeth at some point, even for and for people that are short the thing, that want to short it. So I'm sure that will attract somebody at some point. It's not attracting me yet, but anyway, that's at least as far as the Bitcoin goes. It will be, then you're going to have 5 different futures listed on the product. It's, I think everybody wants to cash in. The CBOE and the CME have already had huge runs. I mean, the CBOE was up, 3% or something this morning, traded on, 120, almost 128. It was 116 2 weeks ago. The CME has been off to the races on this thing. So my guess, as soon as the day they list it, unless it trades, 3 million contracts, which it could, you'll probably see some cooling in the stocks of sort of the vendors of that. And then we'll see actually once there's some sort of market in the underlying, that's a future, I would guess some of the steam would come off, but it's not something I would want to bet heavily against at this point, because if it's now in the popular media and everybody's interested in it, it's only, everybody's just going to see that it was up 1,000% this year. So I can only imagine what it's going to do to everybody. They'll just dump all their stocks and buy Bitcoin, which probably will not be a very good thing.
Oh, just buy all the Bitcoin. That's all you need to do, Mr. Rocklab. You don't need to know any more of these other crazy things. Let's just get into Bitcoin. Speaking of crazy, let's get into it. It's time to break down some of the crazy paper in the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, time for the funky portion of the show. The Bitcoin part wasn't funky enough. We got more funk in store for you. Let's start off with some funkalicious puts in terms of what was lighting it up out there in good old Tesla today. Yes, Tesla selling off alongside the regular rest of the market, off a little less than 0.5% today. But that's not what interests us. No, what interests us are these crazy, just outlandish, weird catastrophe puts that continue to trade. Talking about the Jan 2019 50-50 puts, lighting it up again today. By the way, if you're wondering, the strike is 83.6% out of the money. This platform is giving it a very charitable 5 delta. I would say that's charitable, but about a 5 delta. Yeah, these things are currently trading 70 at 77 cents. And yes, they traded some more today to the tune of 258 more. Everyone's saying, oh, these things are dead. Why do you keep talking about them? No, they're not dead. They trade quite a bit. And the open interest, remember we just talked a few weeks ago, it just broke 30,000 less than a month ago, probably about 3 weeks ago. Guess what? Already up to 34,000. It's already up over 10% since then. So these things continue to grow, continue to change. Someone's slinging these things, and doing so for a decent amount of size, given how ridiculously out of the money these things are. So for all of you who wonder there, and yes, I know time equals delta, Mr. Rock Lobster. I understand that conversation. I'm just saying 5 seems charitable. And you know what? Just for that, I'm going to toss you under the bus with our first one here. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to... Going to go back for some reviews here in the Odd Block today for some highlights we hit on recent shows to see how they fared in the marketplace. Let's start off with, I'm glad to see you agree with me that the 5, after all your snark, Mr. Rock Lobster, you agree. So you guys don't get to see the behind-the-scenes chat, what I have to deal with on a regular basis here, listeners. It's more than most men would tolerate. They say umbrage. I claim umbrage all the time, but that's a conversation for another day. Let's move on to these, what we got first here. We got, our old friend. Everyone wakes up in the morning, has their coffee, and then they check a quote on Plains GP Holdings LP. Ticker symbol PAGP, PAGP. That's everyone's favorite name, I know. $21.13, up a whopping 1.7% today. A good day for PAGP today. This is a name that does, about 2,000 contracts a day. Today doing pretty much about 2,000 and all of 1,897 actually, and of that 1,897, all of them were in the calls. So it's 1,897 to 1 calls over puts. It might be the most aggressive ratio we've seen, but you know what? We don't care about any of that because we're not talking about today's paper. That's not why we're here. We're here to go back in time all the way to October 30th. So about a month and change ago, listeners, to when we talked here on the show. What we saw was some funky size out of the money call paper in good old PAGP. At the time, it was the Nove 21 calls that were lighting it up to the tune of a couple of big blocks, with about 11,000 going up for 42 cents, another 11,000 going up for 35 cents. So kind of split prices on those, total of over 22,000 on the day. And there also is, there was not much, it was opening, not much OI to speak of there. It was about 900 and change. So someone was coming in. They went up fairly close to the bid, both of those transactions. So it kind of got the feel of some opening paper selling on those strikes, in which case we shall investigate. Of course, these options are off the board, but that doesn't stop us from doing a little bit of digging, listeners. We can find options that have gone away, and we have those powers. And digging into a little bit of these bad boys, it looks like paper was coming in and dumping. It was a pretty aggressive sale at the time of October 30th. The stock was about 19, almost about $20. We ranged between 20 and 20 and a half that day. So these were close to at the money. So people were playing with a little bit of fire, and this thing did rally ho. So if they were indeed open and blasting these out, they were probably getting a little concerned around early November when the stock was hitting 22 and a quarter up there. 22.31 actually got as high. So these things were in their face for a little bit. But it looks like they were patient, didn't call these bad boys away. Another indication that they probably were selling these bad boys, because guess what? There were about 35,000 of these calls open on expiration, and they did indeed go out worthless. Expiration on November was, I believe, on the 17th. And the stock was just pretty close. Got close to 21, got about 20.88, and the stock closed out about 20.80. So they had to sweat it a little bit, but they got their 42 to 35 cents, so an average somewhere around 37 and a half or so cents. So if they were indeed opening sales, Mr. Rock Lobster, it seems like it worked out all right, but they kind of had to sweat for their money. Are you a fan of these types of sales? Very aggressive, near the money type blasting out call sales, sir?
Am I a fan? I guess when it works.
Yeah, there you go. You love that. You love that Men's Warehouse trade now.
I do. I think it's a great. It was one of the best trades we ever saw that had no chance of working. Yet somehow it did. Strangely enough, I think this is just somebody who owns a lot of stock. They sell the calls, and they have their, their income play on on one of these gas and pipeline companies. I remember the old days as the market maker guy, just gobbling all these calls every month in stocks like this, and they would go out worthless, and you're just hoping you sold enough stock against them so it wasn't a total disaster. So, and then maybe once a year, oil prices would drop and these things would drop and you would make your money and you went woohoo, and then you'd have to go through the pain all over again for the next year. So I would just say, yes, this is kind of your standard, override play close to the money, and they're getting their 1% yield per month plus the divvy, so that probably cranks it up to 16% a year, and they're happy. Yeehaw.
Yeah, nice. That's certainly a way to crank up the divvy. And if you want a little bit of excitement, if you're bored with your stock and you want to watch it flirt and break through and come back down the at the money strike, well then by all means, that was that trade delivered for you. See, listeners, sometimes the size money likes to play a little close to the fire. They get a little nervous. Perhaps. Maybe they want the stock. They don't mind the stock getting called away. I got a feeling they probably do. They probably would have rolled if that was the case. But yeah, the fact that these went out worthless, they're all traded mostly close to the bid, has a good, if they did buy these things, A, they got a good execution, and B, they sure as hell missed their chance to get out for some money. So yeah, let's be charitable and assume that they were selling these bad boys, and it worked out, even though they had to sweat a little bit to make it happen. I'm sure all of you premium sellers out there, you can kind of understand that one. Let's move on to another funky trade. This one we talked about on October 17th on the show. This was a bit of a funky ratio. Could have been a vertical, could have been a stupid. Kind of pick your poison on this one. This was out in HIMX Technologies, Inc. This is an ADR, ticker symbol HIMX. Closing today at almost 13 even. 13 on the button, off about nearly half a buck today, about 3%. And what we saw back on October 17th was, like I said, a funky vertical in Jan. Vertical/stupid. We weren't quite sure. It was, looked like a ratio one, too. We saw 21,500 of the Jan 7s going up right around the bid for $3.40. And then that wasn't enough. We also saw 10,000 of the Jan 10s going up for also for near the bid as well for about $2.25. So a ratio of a little more than 2 to 1, which made it funky for a couple of reasons. The size was interesting, but also just the ratio. You don't see stupids usually done on a ratio like this. Of course, that could be something to do with, there are a fair number of strikes. You can get pretty much every dollar out here in HIMX. So it's not like they only have 7 and 10 to choose from. They actually have more strikes out here to play with. I'm just checking here on some of these strikes to see now what is cooking with these. And open interest was sizable on these, so we kind of suspected it might indeed have been closing. There was 27,000 open on the Jans and about 16,000 open, both Jans, on the 7s, and about 16,000 open on the 10s. I'm just scrolling through my system here to see how these are looking now. And here we are here with, what do we got? The stock has certainly moved since then. Like I said, back on October 17th, the stock was printing right about $9 and change. It's up substantially since then. It's kind of been on a bit of an upward trend. So if this was indeed a selling of a stupid or selling of a ratio stupid or whatever the heck it was, then this bad boy, it kind of picked an interesting time because the stock has kind of been off to the races since then. It broke through 10 shortly after that. Then it got up to 11 and change, and as I said, got up as high as nearly $14 just about 3 sessions ago. So this thing even today it was trading $13.60. So these things, if they were indeed open in paper and selling on these things, it's been interesting. Worth noting there is size open on both of these strikes right now. So perhaps our friend getting a little bit aggressive and it coming back to bite him. Let's look back at the year. Like I said, recently it's been very nice. Over the past year, HIMX has kind of been, it bottomed out back in February at around $5.15. So it's certainly looking better since then. But it had some interesting flavor. I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster, I'm not sure if you were on the show when we talked about these the first time. But I know your feeling on stupids. What are your feeling on in the money ratio stupids, let alone ones that apparently maybe went in your face quite a bit?
Do you think they sold these things? I'd say it looked like there was buy side on this stuff when you were looking at this originally, how this thing worked out. Because you have bid side going up here, and they're still open, and another 5,000 of the 1720s traded in here for 2019. I don't know. It still feels like somebody wants to own this term.
Yeah, I mean, I would charitably like to think that they bought these things and they got a good execution on these. Just because they got executed near the bid doesn't mean, as we know, it doesn't mean a lot. It could be other things at work. It's just one indicator we have in our arsenal. But yeah,
but on the bid for that size is kind of, what are you doing with that?
That'd be a pretty damn good broker. They're buying on the bid for size. Sale?
I don't see where you make money on selling the in-the-money call unless you're just long a lot of stock and want to be taken out or something. It looks very, well, you know what? It looks odd to me. Why would you sell all those in-the-money calls? Even from a divvy play point of view, it all is hugely confusing to me, by the way. Those calls, and it's still open.
Hugely confusing, still open, which is weird. We got some more time on this one, so I think we'll check back in one last time before it expires in Jan. But yeah, that's why our initial blush on these, we were kind of hoping it wasn't right, because if that just, A, it didn't make a heck of a lot of sense. B, it certainly is in their face almost instantly on this one. So you can take some comfort either way, listeners. Take some comfort if it is on the opening sale side that these guys got run over pretty quick. I know you guys like a little schadenfreude with your trading sometimes. And then also, if it went the other way, then they got a nice fill here. Maybe you should check out their broker and figure out who was working that one for them. Yeah, they're in their face about a couple bucks a contract now out here on these bad boys at Mr. Rock Lobster. So pain being felt if they were indeed. See, that's what happens when you trade a stupid, let alone a ratio stupid. It comes back to haunt you. The name is the stupid for a reason. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, sir. As we get on to our final name, this is going to get you excited, LB, but it's not LL Bean, Mr. Rock Lobster. Don't get too excited. No, it's L Brands Inc. They make women's intimate apparel like Victoria's Secret and other things like that. They closed today, 57.10. This is the name that does about 8,000 contracts a day. Not doing too much today, about 3,300. But you know what? We don't care about today. We're going back to August 24th, going back on the Wayback Machine a little bit for this one, to some paper that we highlighted on the show then. And this was a funky one for a couple of reasons, Mr. Rock Lobster. First off, how many times on this show, I mean, countless times, have we detailed someone closing and rolling to a farther out strike, either rolling puts down, rolling calls up? We've done that 87 bazillion times. What was funky about this one was, looked like somebody was probably shorting a position in the no 40 puts and then rolling back to ACH, rolling back to the ACH 32 halves. It could have been that, or it could have been piling on both strikes. We saw 15,000 of the ACH 32 halves going up the puts, going up right about the middle of the spread there. Only OI was non-existent, so it was opening there. We also saw about 13,000, maybe a little more total on the day, of the no 40 puts going up for about 510 and 520. That had about 18,000 contracts open, which is why I had the feeling of closing. It could have been piling into both, but we also saw the no 40 puts trading a few days before that, actually a month or so before that. It was July 10th for 270. So it seemed like maybe paper was buying those bad boys and then coming in to buy more, but it seemed like all of a sudden they were deciding to roll back to ACH. The weird thing about it was they were kind of lifting offers on a lot of the no puts. Again, we don't know about the ACH. They were kind of smack dab in the middle. Either way, these puts didn't really become material because the stock, kind of like the other name we talked about, never really looked back after that point. These went up on August 17th, and that was pretty much almost the nadir. August 24th, these went up, and that was right around the nadir for the stock. It pretty much bottomed out right around that point, started rallying about a few sessions after that, and pretty much never really looked back. Like I said, closing today, $57.10. So whatever they were doing, if they were buying ACH 32 half puts, or if they were selling them, or if they were adding on to their no 40 puts, or whatever they were doing, those puts all became irrelevant pretty darn quick, because this stock broke through the 40 handle back in mid-September. So yeah, they had about a month or so before it already broke through the 50s. The 32 halves never came into play, and we saw these things going out worthless. So the AUGs on August expiration, these things had about 26,000. Actually, October expiration, he said about 26,000 contracts open on the ACH 32 half puts. Another probably good sign that they probably were short and they were letting that party play out. Mr. Rockoff, so take us home. Another funky, weird one. When's the last time you ever in your life, A, rolled back, and then B, what do you think about our friends here? A lot of people having winners or leaving money on the table today in the old odd block.
This is, again, you've definitely picked like the strangest trades for people trying to make money.
That's why we call it the odd block, sir.
Rolling back, and then what do they close the no 40 puts? It's still all a lot of just, it's all a lot of funkadelic stuff here. I have never understood why you would roll forward in time to closer to expiration when you have something going. Are they trying to backfill some performance or something for the month? I'm not quite sure how that all works out. It's very odd to me. Odd. That's all I got to say on that one.
See, we aim not to disappoint.
It's boggling. I'm boggled.
We aim to please, sir, in the odd block. I'm glad to see we have done so today. Yeah, 3 weird ones. I think that's a charitable way to put them. A lot of people maybe making some money, others perhaps leaving some money on the table, others scratching our head. Who knows what the hell they're up to. Weird, funkalicious paper across the board. Speaking of funkalicious, it's that time. It's Monday. It's time for you guys to join us with some funky questions. It's time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. This is indeed the portion of the show where we break down your questions, your comments, your fun stuff that you have for us. We like to ask you guys questions every now and then, too. We asked you guys last week. We said, SPY always topping the charts in the volume wars. And what do you think people are actually trading in SPY? What are the top OI positions. Again, this was from when we posted it a week ago on Monday. Those positions are going to change. Obviously, the weeklies are hot and everything else. But we gave you guys 4 choices. They were all fairly active strikes, so we weren't making any of these up. It was the Jan 262 calls, the Dees 2019 150 put, the Dees 280 calls, and the Jan 240 puts. I believe both of you guys and the Meatball were all voting for the Jan 262 calls. That's what our audience picked as well. 28% coming in for the Jan 262 calls, 26% for the Dees 2019 150 puts, a little love for those, and the tie between the Dees 280 calls and the Jan 240 puts. So how do you guys feel? You both picked what the audience picked. You feel good?
I feel very good. We have a very smart crowd.
Well, you shouldn't because you're both wrong. You're all wrong. The audience was wrong as well. It was the Dees 280s. You should feel great shame. That was number 1 with a bullet. Again, at the time we did that poll, it changed by the end of the week, but it was all about the poll that day. It was kind of straightforward. I was hoping for a little bit more of an exotic strike or a name, but nope, straightforward, plain Dees 280 is a pretty aggressive strike. But that was number 1 with the bullet. And those Dees 2019 150 puts, they actually had some paper to them. So pretty interesting stuff there. We did ask you guys this week as well, all this news coming in, all this talk of crazy old craziness with Bitcoin stuff. We asked you a few weeks ago. We should pay off that one first if I could find it. I don't have the results. Maybe our crack staff here while I'm doing this can find the results for the Bitcoin poll we asked a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you guys to vote on what we got today. Then maybe by that time I'll have found it. We asked you guys today. The war on Bitcoin derivatives is heating up yet again. CME launching their futures on the 18th of December, not to be denied. CBOE saying, no, we're going for December 10th launch date. And if that wasn't enough for you in the derivatives fight, we also got NASDAQ saying, yeah, we're going to do something by Q2 of next year. We don't know what, but a future. So they're playing the futures game as well. No surprise, 3 for 3 going the futures route. CFTC, a little more fun to play with than SEC. With so many choices, we asked you guys, though, how are you guys going to trade Bitcoin in 2018? And we gave you a choice of the CBOE futures, list launching on the 10th, the CME futures on the 18th, the NASDAQ futures, which are launching sometime indeterminate, and old school Bitcoin, which is just pretty much what you got right now in the old poll. So let's ask, while we look for the results of last question, Mr. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you. What is your vote, and what do you think our audience is voting?
I'm going with CBOE. They're the ones that we're mostly equity option people, so I'm sticking with CBOE, by gosh, for that reason alone. Nothing against the Merc, but I'll be an equity option loyalist, even though they're not doing equity options in this specific instance. So I will go with that, and I'll say the audience will do the same.
All right, I did find the results. We'll get to these in a minute from our... Actually, no, this is the trading results, how people are going to trade those. I'll have to look a little deeper. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you, sir. What is your choice if you have one, and what do you think our audience is picking?
My choice should be the CBOE, but I still think the audience does not trust this crypto stuff. They'll trust it maybe when it's up another 1,000%, but right now they're not trusting it.
But we did not give that as a choice this time. We did not give the out of I don't trust the crypto. You got to pick one, which I think is probably scaring people.
Then everybody's going to go to CBOE then.
That's probably scaring people right now because we just posted this before the show. So you got all week if you haven't played yet, listeners. Early voting is people are pretty split. They can't make up their mind. There's a third for old school Bitcoin. A little bit more, 34%, I guess they round up, and 33% for Bitcoin futures and 33% for the CME futures. Even though we got a few more votes filtering as we're talking, so maybe that will change. Oh, looks like CME taking the lead now. 50% rally ho mode for CME. So the listeners are saying, heck with you guys. We're going with CBOE. You guys got all week. If you haven't voted yet, head on over at Options, make your voice heard. This is an interesting one. I'll be curious to see how it shakes out. I think in our last poll, I don't have the results ready in front of me, listeners, but I do believe in our last poll, it was pretty close. It was CME was leading, and then CBOE started catching up towards the end. I think CME ended up winning it pretty closely. Well, actually, I think the overall winner was people didn't trust crypto at all. That was like 38 or 40%. So that was the overall winner. In terms of the actual products, it was a little bit of a closer fight. All right, let's do question from the Grinch. The Financial Grynch, that is. He wants to know, do you really reckon, I guess this guy is from the deep south, long options is profitable? So I got to work with this guy on some of his grammar here. But that aside, I don't know. Do we reckon that? It's funny. We talked about this on the show. We know so many hardcore people out there are just talking about, writing options. It's all they ever want to do. I get you. I feel your love. I feel your pain there. You don't want to buy an option. You're in the Don Schlesinger camp of buy or sell or don't sell, never buy. But, we talked about it before. We talked about it on earnings a few weeks ago. There are opportunities when the vol is underpriced, which at the very least, not selling it is probably the preferable alternative. And maybe you want to buy something. Or maybe you go the rock lobster method, which we like to do on the show here. I think all of us are pretty much trying to get your juice for as close to free as possible. That makes the buying of it a lot less painful. Of course, you can do that through spreads, ratios, a bunch of other things we've outlined many times on the show. I think maybe the Financial Grynch is just fixated on coming in and just straight up buying premium, buying a call, out of the money call in XYZ, which was Uncle Mike's strategy trade of the week last week. So check that one out. Very rare straight up out of the money call buying bonanza for Uncle Mike. But that's not something we usually advocate. Usually it's a much more straight up spread type trading and that sort of thing. So if you can get your juice for a reasonable price, if you find volatility levels that you're happy with, and you have a time frame where you expect some sort of reasonable development in the underlying or in the volatility, whatever the case may be, then yeah, I think we all do reckon that long options can be profitable. Since I invoked your juice for free, Mr. Rock Lobster, I'll let you go first. What do you got to say here to the Grinch? I mean, he is the Grinch, so he's going to be kind of a bah humbug guy anyway. But what do you think? Do you really reckon long options is profitable? I just love that verbiage.
I love the verbiage. It's good. The thing I would say is sometimes it can be. In our pro chat room, mostly people sell options. I shouldn't say mostly, but a lot of them. But there are also a lot of long option buyers and hedging with long options. And it's just, we try to tell people on the show, if you're going to buy options, try to give yourself enough time. Try to buy something undervalued. I mean, that's all the stuff we teach at Option Pit. But it can be. A lot of the largest option trading firms on the planet made some pretty serious money owning options at various times in their existence. So should I say, I think most of the retail literature is selling options, mostly because it takes a certain amount of education to buy them. But once you're educated on how the option can decay and you can kind of fake or you could not outthink, but there are times when you can Black-Scholes, you can kind of mess with it a little bit so you don't get near the decay profile that Black-Scholes is thinking. Then you have a shot at actually making money from those darn long options, I reckon.
Uncle Mike, you spend a lot of your days rolling them there puts. I know you like to do a lot of calendars and diagonals and things, so you're not just naked buying puts. But what do you have to say here to our friend, the Grinch? I hear he's a mean one, so watch out.
He is, and some people wouldn't touch long options with a 39.5-foot pole and even have 3 words for them: stink, stank, stunk. But I say you need to take what the market gives you, and with volatility at lower levels, I prefer to be more of a seller if it's there, but I just don't think it's there in this marketplace right now. I like risk reversals. I like a lot of different things, but in terms of just straight selling options at this point, I shouldn't say that. We do have some covered calls on within our portfolios, but for the most part, I'm of the school of thought to where if it's there, if the market will give you something, take it, and that's kind of how I roll.
Yeah, if the sale ain't there, then don't force it. But yeah, you can. If you're judicious with your opportunities, then you too can do well buying options. I hope Don is not listening, because I'm sure he'll write to me after this. All right, let's keep on rolling into our final segment. It's time for Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, listeners, we got Bitcoin looming in less than a week. Crazy. How crazy is that? It's gone from just crazy out there idea to pretty much a tradable product in the span of a few months. So at least from a derivatives perspective, I know it's always been out there on the quote unquote exchanges for a while in terms of the crypto venues, but real listed derivatives venues, it's coming soon. So strap in, listeners. In terms of actual earnings, not a heck of a lot to really catch our eye this week. Kind of a light week, unless you're really into Funko, which we are here. We have a lot of Funko Pops all around the studio here, so we like ourselves some Funko. Unfortunately, no Funko options. Ticker symbol FNKL. They make, of course, those adorable Funko Pops that you probably have seen everywhere. Some may argue they've saturated the marketplace, but c'est la vie. If there's a property you like, chances are, or an IP, chances are Funko has a pop of them out there somewhere. They're pretty cheap, about $9.71. Apparently, the market liking what they're looking at, but this is actually that's tomorrow after the close. So they rallied over 3% today. So maybe people are not tired of all things Funko Pop out there. And they're a pretty recent addition. They've only been listed for a few months out there. But aside from all the Funko Pop love, not a heck of a lot of other really. We're already Uncle Mike's favorite name, Five Below. They reported last week, so he's kind of done for the rest of earnings seasons. Not a lot left unless you're looking at Sea Change after the close on Wednesday. So that said, let's start with you, Uncle Mike. I know you were excited about Five Below last week. What's on your radar this week, sir?
Oh, I mean, Five Below is more for the rich people. I'm more of a Dollar General kind of guy. But, just watching today, we hit all-time highs again at the open of the market, and we sold off. So this is going to be a fascinating week in that we're not close enough to Christmas yet to where all the wealthy Wall Streeters are going to go to the Hamptons for the holidays. So there's still going to be traders out there, and this could potentially be an opportunity for a rally, or we may have seen the top. So this is one to where who needs TV, who needs entertainment of any sort? Just get your streaming quotes and watch the SPX during the day. That's what I'm watching.
Get your streaming quotes, watch some SPX, and then this Sunday, I guess start slinging some coin. Mr. Rock Lobster, while you're gearing up to sling some coin by way of, I think, was it XBT? Was the ticker symbol? What's catching your eye the rest of this week, sir?
Really just to see if volatility holds up from the tweet Senate. I mean, all the market is all politics at this point, it feels like. So there's the earnings are out, and I think that's kind of, at least short term, that's the bounciness. And if they pass something, I think people will be happy. If they don't, we sell off, and that's short term. That's what we're going to get. So anyway, that's what we're looking for this week. VIX closed higher. VIX cash closed higher today after just getting annihilated this morning. So that's, that it was just a reversal. People sold stocks, vol went back up. That's supposed to happen. But, I mean, we did have it over 1% move today, which is – that's not nothing. So the market ain't done moving.
Easier if I hit the right button. Too many buttons here in the old studio. Unfortunately, listeners, that music means as we've come to the close of yet another interesting show. Touched on a little Bitcoin, touched on some crazy, super funky paper in the odd block today. If you missed that part or were not paying attention, go back and check that one out, listeners. Kind of weird. Give us your thoughts on what the heck was going on with that paper. See, our theme, if there is one on this show since its inception, has been size money does not always equal smart money. I think today gives you 3 decent examples of that. Some maybe not. Check them out for yourself. Let us know what you guys think, as well as what you guys want to trade when it comes to Bitcoin and all that other fun stuff. But that music means we got to check out before we go. One last time around the horn. Let's start with the meatball. Actually, the meatball's not here. Start with the Rock Lobster. In addition to debating why he is so handsome, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you guys watching for the rest of this week, sir? And what's cooking in the land of the pit?
Our VIX Made Easy coming. My new vol newsletter. We've been running a prototype of it. It's off to a blindingly fast start, I have to say. So that part's good. So look for those products coming out literally within weeks. And our new website within weeks. I mean, it's all getting ready to go, and basically, hopefully it'll be the YouTube for options. So if you're a member at Option Pit, and there's any subject that you want on that we have covered, which is just about everything for educational purposes, It will be there and easy to find. I promise.
There you go. YouTube for options. Check it out, optionpit.com. Speaking of YouTube for options, we've had a YouTube channel for a long time. We finally really just kind of turned it on. We've had it for years. So there's some stuff up there for Options Insider. You can't find us there. We're looking to put up a lot more, including some of our shows, maybe even some of the live versions. You can get them there pretty soon too. So if you're not, you can see the links from our email, some of that, how to find us over there. There's Options Insider. I think we literally have 2 subscribers. We just turned it on a couple of days ago. But if you're interested in that, check that out. There's some videos already up there, which are actually kind of good. I had forgotten we put those up there. They're pretty well produced. We'll probably look to put up more, maybe some nice versions of our audio shows you can get up there on YouTube. I like to listen on YouTube mostly anyway, so keep an eye on that. Subscribe there if you haven't done so already. And we'll start getting some good content up there. Maybe we'll even switch the live feed to that. Who knows? We'll keep an eye on that as people are still reporting problems with the Mixler. By the way, Matt Stankiewicz listening, chiming in about our debate about live long premium. He says, buy it when you can, not when you have to. I think we can agree with that. All right. And last but not least, Mr. Uncle Mike, what's cooking? Let's say I want to sling some skew. Where can I go? What can I do? Or maybe I want some help buying some options. What should I do?
Oh, by all means, give me a call. Please do. And just going into Christmas, if you're looking to save a few pennies to buy some extra Christmas presents for your loved ones, how would you like to save it and not have to pay a ticket charge when trading your commissions? Give me a call. I can tell you how I can help you do that and trade at the same rate with which an RIA firm of several $100 million trades. Give me a call if you're interested in such things at 312-212-3531 or shoot me an email at mtosaw@rcmfs.com.
Hit the man up. He can also explain to you how to get them long options for fairly cheap or to at least pay for the options that you're buying. A very significant challenge out there. And on behalf of Uncle Mike and the Rock Lobster and indeed myself, I thank all of you out there in the listening audience for downloading, streaming, and subscribing. And of course, for fighting through the live chat issues. If you did have some, we're working on finding some alternatives so you guys can maybe very soon have multiple ways to live stream it, not just the Mixler. And we'll see you on Thursday for more of the Option Block.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.